Good morning, everyone. For those of you who've never, hey Danny on Periscope, how are you? 3544, thank you for joining on Periscope. I thank everyone for coming into the broadcast this morning. Little Mind Your Business morning motivation. Bye, babe. Thank you for joining. Chit Chat Chew. Thank you for joining on Periscope. And those of you who are joining me on Facebook Live, welcome. Welcome to all of my replay viewers who may catch the broadcast after we've gone off. Hello. Hey, Christy. How are you, dear? This is going to be great, guys, for those of you who are entrepreneurs who have children, right? Because it's a whole nother ball game. Good morning from Atlanta. Awesome. Chit Chat. Thank you for joining. Guys, while you are joining in, I'm going to do a quick introduction, and then I'm going to ask that you guys swipe up or right to share the broadcast with your friends and followers, either on Periscope or on Facebook. I'm sure there are other entrepreneurial parents who could use this message, right? Because it's a whole nother ball game when you're pursuing purpose and your destiny and your goals and your dreams and children are involved. It's a whole nother ball game, right? And everyone that is an entrepreneur that we see on social media may not be in the same position, right? They may not have children. Good morning, Nana. Hey, Sharmella, how are you? Thank you for joining on Facebook this morning. Guys, quick introduction for those of you who are joining me on the broadcast for the first time. You've never been in a broadcast with me before. Thank you for all those hearts and likes on Facebook. Guys, you guys on Facebook can press the share button in the left to share with another parent, right, who may be an entrepreneur. I wanted to share something that just recently occurred with me that I think will bless you guys. Hey, Shia, good morning. Thank you for joining. Quick introduction. For those of you who've never been in a live broadcast with me before, I'm Tanya Wilson-Cherry. I'm a business consultant and certified life coach. I have a 20-plus year background as a licensed cosmetologist and 10 years as a former salon owner. What I do, I come on and give you guys my expertise and experience on entrepreneurship and running a business, helping you form working systems, right? So that we can turn hustles into entrepreneurship, do business, leave a legacy, right? Leave a legacy for our children. Do things in our business to get unstuck so that we can go to the next level. That's what I do. That's what I help beauty industry professionals and entrepreneurs do, help them save time and money so they can create a lifestyle. Hey, Sherry, how are you, dear? That they truly love, right? Because it's easy to go on your pursuit and you're like, I'm not feeling this. This isn't working for me. Like, this isn't something that I really love. The way this is working out is not what I anticipated. Hey, Tanya, how are you? Thank you for joining this morning, dear. So how many of you, quick question, how many of you have ever expected your children to do something that you had not shown them how to do before? If you've ever been guilty, I'm going to be the first one to raise my hand, to expect your children to do something, and when you thought about it, you really had not shown them the proper way to do it. You really hadn't been consistent on showing them how it needs to be done. I'm going to use something real simple, right? Because I don't want people to get in their feelings. I'm going to use something real simple like cleaning their room, right? If you've never effectively gone through step by step and shown them how to clean their room, right? However could we expect them to do it the way that it needs to be done? I'm going somewhere, guys, okay? If you've ever expected your children to do something that you realize you never have properly shown them the way to do it, put a 1 in the comments for me. Put a 1 in the comments both on Periscope and on Facebook. Tap the screen for hearts. Show love. Let me know you understand where I'm at. Well, one of the things that I did recently, I've done it. I had these expectations and I'm like, okay, she's just not cleaning her room the right way. And then it dawned on me. And see, this is when you're really ready to grow, guys. When you allow the Holy Spirit to convict you, right, and correct you for the part that you actually play in it yourself. Because many times we can get frustrated and upset with our children, right, for stuff that we really haven't properly shown them how to do it. So my expectations for my daughter with cleaning her room, I realized, I was like, I've never just sat in the room with her. We cleaned it together, back to back. And here I am constantly repeating, okay, I told you to clean the room. You didn't clean the room. You still got stuff on the floor. You didn't dust your dresser. But have we ever properly shown them what to do? And I say this because that's not only with room cleaning, right, guys? This goes with our finances. It goes so deep and so far, because as an entrepreneur who has children, we not only have a responsibility to make money, right, to provide for them so that they have food, shelter, and clothing, but we also have a responsibility in showing them how to spend money, how to save money, what to do with the money, right? And so sometimes we have great expectations for our children that we haven't properly done what we needed to do. I just raised my hand. Another thing, and this is why this really came to my mind, because I realized as I was looking through my daughter's book bag that over the holiday season and being busy in my business and, just getting a whole lot of things done in my business, I had not properly gone through her book bag in some days, right? But my expectation for her to make good grades, turn in her homework, those things of that nature were still there. And then the Holy Spirit convicted me, because he said, you've been slipping a little bit about thoroughly checking through her homework, thoroughly checking through her book bag, rather, to make sure that she turned the homework in, right? And so sometimes we have these, hey Sonia, how are you? Thank you for joining. We have these high expectations, especially as entrepreneurs, because much of it is trying to balance life, right? Much of it is trying to get the things we need to get done in order to make the money to provide for them. But in actuality, if we're not careful, right? If we're not mindful of staying in our own lane. And what I mean by our own lane is, for instance, one of the things last year when I was setting my plans out for this year, I told myself that I wouldn't conduct a lot of classes between October and December. And one of the reasons that I was specific about saying that is because I noticed those months, right, at school for my daughter, they have so many projects, so many concerts, just a lot of things, and I needed to be a little more focused in those areas. But I made a mistake, guys, and guilty of what I actually preach. Sometimes we can watch the lives of other entrepreneurs, right? We can watch the lives of other entrepreneurs and we get hyped, and we should, right, about the things that we need to do, but we still have to keep in mind what our lane is, right, and what's going to work for us. And that's why it's so important that you guys have a vision that's written out and plain, because oftentimes we will get off track a little bit, and someone else may be able to travel to 5 or 6 different states. They may be able to work till 12 or 1, getting money, getting clients behind the chair. They may be able to conduct classes every week or every month, but you have to figure out what your vision is for your life so that you can keep a balance for what's most important to you. And so what I decided last year that I would do during the season, I would use these months to take products that I'd already created, right, that would bring profit and revenue. Hey Nikki, how are you, dear? That would bring profit and revenue in for me without me having to exert that much more energy. And so what you guys need to focus on when you're looking to create income, especially as a parent, sometimes you got to find the season based on the things that are important to you and look at what's in your hand, right, and take advantage or master those things. Sometimes we're so busy creating and doing something new and getting so connected to the new stuff that the other stuff, kind of goes on the back burner. I don't know too many entrepreneurs who desire success in their business who don't want success in their family life as well. If you're a parent, I don't know too many entrepreneurs who, would rather just make a lot of money and then their home life, go lacking. Right? Does anybody else know anybody that really truly desires that? But if we're not careful, that is what will happen. That's why it's so important that we have, a balance. I did a value assessment test yesterday, I believe it was yesterday. And guys, oftentimes what we say we value does not always match our actions. What we say we value does not always match our actions. The value assessment test that I took, the huge part of it was it asked you to list 4 things that are priority in your life. And so when you all get off of the broadcast, or if you happen to have pen and paper on you now, I'd like for you to take an opportunity to write the 4 things that are top priority in your life. And sounds easy, sounds simple. Many of you can come up with that, on the top, in the top of your head now. But the next thing that the assessment test asked you to do was it allowed you to actually evaluate how much of your time you spend on those 4 things that you say you value, that you say are priority in your life. I mean, it gets specific. And by the time you finish taking the assessment test, it actually gives you a bar or graph. Good morning, Renee. How are you? Thank you for joining. It actually gives you a bar or a graph that tells you the real truth, right? It tells you the real truth, because remember I said sometimes what we say we value does not match where we place our actions. For instance, remember when I said earlier, sometimes we tell our children to do things that we haven't thoroughly explained to them, so they really don't have a true picture of what it looks like? Oftentimes it's the same way with our business, right? What we're saying we desire for our business is one thing, but the actions that we're doing says something totally different. You guys with me? Give me some hearts if you're with me. We say we want one thing for our business, but the actions that we're actually taking towards those things don't match. Some of you may be saying that, you would like to be wealthy, right? Some of you may say that you would like to be wealthy. How much time do you actually dedicate reading, learning, and taking classes about finances and wealth, right? So we say one thing, right? But the actions that we take, they just don't line up. And so every now and then, it's important that we do a value assessment. One of the greatest moves I ever made in my life was reevaluating my values. Because when I owned a salon, sometimes I was there 12 hours, right? My daughter was 2 at this time, and she'd had a dream that I was in the clouds in a swing. I thought I was gonna die or something. And so in talking to my deacon, he asked me, was I away from home a lot? It was an aha moment for me, because sometimes we can go so hard to go get the money because we're doing it for family, right? That's what we're doing it for. But we miss the opportunities to connect properly and do the things that we really need to do to build strong families. So we have to be mindful, guys, that we're staying in our lane, that the things that we say we value line up with our actions. If you are, wanting to get out of debt, or you're struggling with your finances, how much time do you still spend at the mall, right? How much time do you spend, putting vacations on credit card? I mean, it has to line up. At some point, what we say has to line up with our actions if we want to see the results. Many of you may want greater increase in your business, but you just have not been willing to get the information that you need to do it different, right? In all honesty, you really haven't. Or even if you've gotten the information, you haven't taken time to put the action behind it. So, on today, I want to encourage you guys, when you write down those 4 things that are top priority to you, to also go back and assess how much time do you spend connecting with those 4 things, or getting the information you need so that those things happen, so that we're not saying that we value something and we're not putting our actions behind it. It's so easy as parents in entrepreneurship to, lose the balance, right? To lose the balance. And so one of the things I teach in my Slay Your Plans and Profit class, I don't just teach about getting goals in your business. We actually assess several different areas in your life so that you can do a check and say, okay, as I'm setting my goals for 2017, I actually need to work more on this particular area than I thought I did, right? It's not just my finances, it's full circle. It's full circle. So guys, I want you to remember that what you value needs to match your actions, right? You need to be putting efforts behind those things that you say you value. I found this book that I purchased back in the maybe mid to late 90s. It's called The Value in the Valley. The word value has been on my mind for some days now. So I knew that I would incorporate one of my broadcasts with the word value. But I also purchased this book for my mom. And it talks about the valley being a place of what may seem like darkness, right? Where things may not be going the way that you anticipate them to go. But Iyanla Vanzant is who wrote the book. And one of the greatest things she talks about is finding value in the valley. And so whenever things seem to be coming at you back to back to back, whether it's situations with your children, your finances, health, different things of that nature, we always want to go and recheck to see how we can line our actions up differently so that we can get different results, right? Because oftentimes there are opportunities in those valley seasons. There are opportunities in those moments where you feel frustrated with it all. And those opportunities are usually moments telling you just to like redefine your value system and your priorities, and you know, the amount of time that you're spending on the things that you say are important to you. Guys, if you haven't read the book, it's an excellent book. It is an excellent book. It talks about all of the strength that you can gain from your valley season, because many of you are still holding on to things from your past, and it's creating a blockage and not allowing you to move forward, right? I truly believe that when we're ready, really ready to grow, we will allow the Holy Spirit to convict us of even those small things that we need to do different, right? Those small things that we know in our heart that we value, but realistically our actions aren't really lining up with it. And I really don't think that redirecting, reflecting, growing, and shifting ever stops. I think it's a continuous expectation that you should have for your journey, and it simply means that you're growing at a new level, especially when you are willing to be aware, right? When you're willing to say, you know what, let me reshift some things. Let me think about this a little different. How can I do this a little different? And I know for those of you who may be single moms and you don't have any help, trust me, I've been there before, right? I don't know how many of you know my story, but I was separated for years, right? And so I experienced, you know, what it's like to be a single parent. Hey, Chris, how are you, dear? And it's not easy, but people do it all the time. And it's basically just reshifting your priorities and remembering what your lane is. Some of you are comparing your pursuit to people who may not have children, right? And so it's easier for them to constantly be on the go and do new things. But even for those of you who have children, it's not impossible, right? It's not impossible as long as we're prioritizing what's really important to us and figuring out how to invest our time, our money, our energy, and our resources on what we say we value, right? If we were to say that, you know, we really value our business and our pursuit, we would trade some of those hours that we watch Empire. I don't know the new shows because I don't watch TV, but we would trade some of those hours to do the work. We would trade some of those hours to do the work. So as entrepreneurs who are parents, I encourage you to make sure we're giving the children the example that we have this huge expectation for them to live by. I had to check myself. When I did my value assessment, it was a little scary because it began asking you things like, well, how much time do you actually devote to this, and that, right? And so when you get into the awareness of what you say you value, and then you're being asked to put time beside it, and you're like, whoa, I'm not really spending a lot of time there. I need to increase the amount of time that I'm spending on this area that I say I value, right? Because life, we, you know, have a tendency to do what we've seen done before. And so if we've seen people who don't value their money, right? people who feel like an investment is a pair of shoes or a brand new vehicle that they may not be able to afford the maintenance on. If we've seen those things done in our lives before, then we'll duplicate them, right? And then we'll become frustrated when things aren't working. So as entrepreneurial parents, for those of you who are parents, make sure that you're reflecting and redirecting so that your goals match your values, so that your goals match what you say you value. Remember to write down the 4 top things that you value in your life, and then go back and ask yourself, how much time do I spend investing in that per day? And for those of you who are parents, one of the aha moments for me, because we can get in the habit of feeling like, okay, I take them to school, I wash clothes, I cook, I clean, but none of those things really, children don't really understand those things, right? They understand the time that you actually connect with them and the time that you actually dedicate to talking about some of the things that are important in their world, right? And so that was an aha moment for me, because I was, what's that? Antoine Foster, thank you for joining on Periscope. I was saying I cook, I take her to all of her activities, I wash clothes, I do her hair. But those things, although they are important to children, they don't understand how to value that. They have their own little world. And so when I was doing my assessment, you have to say, how much time are you actually sitting down listening to the children, right? How much time are you dedicating to just one-on-one time with them? Because we can get so confused in our pursuit, right? And feel like that the things that we are providing for them is showing them love. And in actuality, that's not always how they receive it as children. And so make sure, as you're writing down your 4 top priorities, guys, go back and check and see how much of your actions line up with what you say is important. If, creating a great business, entrepreneurship, being a great hairstylist is important to you, how much time do you really dedicate on the business aspect of your career, right? And sometimes it means staying up late. Sometimes it means doing all the priority things during the day and then staying up later at night. It's, what are you willing to invest? Are you willing to get the information, right, that you need to learn to balance things out in your life so that they're running smoothly? For those of you who may have time management issues or need clarity on your vision or direction, join my class January the 2nd. Start the new year off right. We strategically plan 12 months. We include more than one area of your life. You do your own work in class, right? I give you the worksheets and the formats and the systems to be able to ask yourself the questions you need to ask so that you can strategically plan your life and business out full circle for 12 months so that you're not lost, right? So that you're working on things that are really going to effectively take you to the next level. Procrastination usually comes when a vision is unclear. Procrastination usually comes when a vision is unclear. When procrastination is far away from you, right? Because you're like, okay, it's clear. I have an idea of where I'm headed. I know what I want. I know what I desire. And that clarity gives you the push that you need. But oftentimes, if you're not quite sure what to do or how to make it happen, you won't do the work. You'll find yourself just sitting, because a confused mind does nothing. A confused mind does nothing. So guys, make sure the investments that you're making, the actions that you're making in your life really line up with what you value. Invest in yourself, invest in your business, invest in learning how to stop taking stuff over to each new year, right? Ultimately, like these cycles where, things are going well a little bit, and, here I go again in this season where, I've fallen off again. And a lot of it is just because we're repeating the same things over and over again and expecting them to be different, right? The expectations that we have for our children, it really helps us to correct ourselves, right? If we want to show them the greatest example, if we want to, because children do what they see more so than they do what we say. Do you guys know that? They do what they see more so than they do what we say. And so it's important that, you know, we're creating those examples for them, even in the smallest things, right? We want them to see us pursuing our dreams, our goals, our visions. We want their time when they're home with us, because that time actually goes by so fast. We want them to remember those principles that they actually saw us putting into place, right? So that they can implement them in their own lives. That's our legacy, guys. That's really our lane. That's our legacy. That's really our lane. And, you know, as we begin to desire to create the example for them, you know, whether they see us in our entrepreneurial journey or how we manage our finances, it allows us to correct ourselves. We become better. Hey, Jacqueline, how are you? Thank you for joining. We become better because we're creating a better example for them, right? And so we're going to be mindful that our values match the actions. Our actions match what we say we value. Hey, Phyllis, how are you? Thank you for joining this morning. Guys, if you're just joining, say hello. Tap the screen for hearts. Show some love. Be sure to share this broadcast out with your followers. You can click the share button on the left for those of you who are on Facebook, and Periscope, swipe up or right to share with your followers. But I thank you guys this morning. It was on my heart after doing an assessment, a value assessment test. I thought I would come on because after doing the test, I realized that I need to reshift a few things so that all of my actions are lining up with what I say I value, right? Right? You know, where do I need to put more time in order to create a full circle event in my life? Not just one area of my life, but a full circle event, right? Abundance in every area of my life. And so, guys, don't miss opportunities. If you feel like you're in a valley season, there is value in that valley, right? You can find value there. Oftentimes there's new direction, there's hope, there are moments for creativity, because oftentimes when we can't really find our way, it allows us to do things that we've never done before. And so there are opportunities. You can find value in the valley, and also an opportunity to reflect, right? Whenever we have valley seasons, I think it's God's little signal for us to figure out how to do things different. Whenever we face valley seasons in our life, they have value. I believe God is speaking to us in those moments and saying, okay, I caused this little friction because I couldn't allow you to continue moving in that direction, because that's not going to work. That's not going to give you the results that you want. And so he'll put a little halt in what you're doing, or, you know, one thing after another will seem to continue to come. And I believe they are signs. I believe that is God's grace saying, you know, wait a minute, daughter or son, I need you to rethink how you're doing this and shift a little bit. I need you to rethink how you're doing this and shift a little bit. You know, a lot of times we sit on opportunity and we aren't even aware of it. We sit on opportunity and we aren't aware of it. Many times we miss opportunity because we haven't surrendered. And when I think about surrender, I don't necessarily feel like surrendering means, you know, giving up all your desires and, you know, the way that you like to do things. But I do believe that there is a surrender that comes on the journey that you have to make. And sometimes it's just surrendering to do it different, right? It's surrendering to adapting a new mindset that is going to allow us to do it different, right? That's what surrender is. It's like embracing the process, not going back to old ways, not going back to old situations, not going back to old habits. That's what surrender is. Surrender the process of getting to the next level. And oftentimes it means that we need to change the goals that we have so they match the things that we really value. I thank you guys as always for joining me for the Mind Your Business Morning Motivation. I will be back on at 2 o'clock for a business broadcast where I teach strategies and things that you can actually use in your salon, stylist business, or entrepreneurship. Guys, on your way out, tap the screen for hearts to show love. Make sure to share with your followers, and I'll see you guys at 2. Have a super, super, super awesome day, guys. Value. What are the 4 things you value the most, and how do your actions line up with it? Peace. Redirecting our path. Absolutely, Miss Phyllis. Absolutely.